Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Run It Back. Look, it has begun. The live action movies reviews of Run It Back has begun. So now there's going to be some anime only Run It Backs, and then now live action. But if we're doing live action, like Chris is my partner for the anime ones, my partner for the live action ones is none other than the Bros Who Binge host himself, Mr. Adam Shubert. Shubert, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty well, man. The first time I did Run It Back with you, it was you and Krissa, and we did the Cowboy Bebop movie, which is a movie I had seen before, but it was really great to revisit because I had only seen it one time.
Yep.
And with this, what made it really exciting for me was, at first we were going to do a Tarantino,
but the poll said otherwise.
But the poll said otherwise, and I'm glad they did because this is the first time I've ever got to watch this movie. So I got to go into with fresh eyes, and it was a real fun ride.
See, what I like about doing this show is and I'm glad that you haven't seen it. Hopefully, the guy that I'm about to introduce next has seen it. I always like to have two people who've seen it and one person who hasn't, or at least one person has to have seen it, because we got to determine if it's a run it backable movie, something that you can watch over and over again. But joining me, as always, the editor at the Bros Who Think Network. He's just the editor of all of them, and the new judge of Pitch It, Mr. Ian Hawley. Ian, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm sorry I'm going to have to disappoint you on this one, but this was also my first time watching Goodfellas as well. So I was super hyped up about it.
It's
and
cool.
I actually watched it twice.
Oh, well, then that's cool. That's even better. You did like me. When I do running backs, I always try to watch the movie twice. But this one was one that I didn't have to watch twice because I've seen this movie over 10 times, easy. But being that this was the first time I've watched this movie with eyes where I'm taking notes and I'm being critical, there were a lot of things I've seen in this movie that really showed. This movie told you what was going to happen at the end in the beginning of the movie. It legitimately told you what was going to happen.
I think what was really interesting too is from a perspective of me, and I guess also Ian, is having seen the Irishman beforehand. And so like seeing the parallels that this brought on with the Irishman kind of like really hit home with me when I was watching it.
And with that being said, the way we start this show off, we always do our opening thoughts of the movie. Then we go into background, and then we get into our different categories. Our categories for the live action are a little bit different than anime because there's not fights in these movies unless it's an action movie.
There are fights.
There are fights, but unless it's an action movie, we're not looking at best fights. So what we got is best scenes. We have best lines. We have Are We Sure? We have Who Won the Movie? Who Lost the Movie? Six Man of the Movie, and Could Blank Actor be replaced with another actor, where each person chooses a specific actor who they didn't necessarily like and choose a person they could replace, and we discuss it, as well as I have just a topic that I want to discuss and a question that we ask at the end. But let's get into it. Ian, what'd you think of this movie, brother?
I thought this was a great movie. This was a movie that I'd actually been meaning to watch for a long time. It's a classic that you just hear about in pop culture referenced. We'll get into the quotes in a minute, but they have some of the best quotes of all time from any movie.
Without this movie, The Sopranos doesn't happen, because there were, 7 actors from this movie were like leads in The Sopranos.
Which was crazy watching it, having seen The Sopranos first as well. I was just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm watching a Sopranos movie basically. Yeah, but in a good way, not to the point where it was like, oh, now I want to turn this off and just go watch The Sopranos instead.
And see, having watched this movie and having watched The Sopranos, I'm gonna ask you, do you feel, because when I watch The Sopranos, what makes it so good to me is that the guys that are in The Sopranos are the childrens of Goodfellas. For example, how Tony's always like, our era's past, our era's past. They're talking about the Goodfellas era.
Mm-hmm. So yes, you get to see kind of a similar rise from these guys, throughout their lives. Whereas in The Sopranos, they're not winding down in their careers by any means, but the hard work has already been done.
Yeah, it's over. It's past their time.
Yeah, so this kind of feels like, the early life prequel almost of The Sopranos.
Yep, I agree with you. Shubert, what did you think of this movie? Opening thoughts.
Yeah, now that you mentioned about The Sopranos, that's totally true. Like I now kind of putting two and two together with that is kind of a really interesting and intriguing part of this, kind of being a precursor to all that and having all the people that were involved be in it. But like I said, with The Irishman, you really
can you save your, because I want to ask a question about The Irishman at the end. I want to save all Irishman conversations to the end.
All right, well, that's fine.
Because that's the closing discussion question. You remember how we talked about could Vincent be in the live action of Cowboy Bebop at the end? I want to save, because I want to discuss how does this movie compare to The Irishman.
Well, so I guess the other thing in this would also be that I, as much as I, watch a lot of movies and run a movie podcast and all that, I hadn't seen too many Martin Scorsese movies. Like I'd seen Irishman, I'd seen Aviator.
That's the thing.
I actually saw Silence
in our podcast.
Hugo.
Group, I'm the Martin Scorsese guy.
So like and Taxi Driver, I'd seen Taxi Driver. So I had seen some of like the good ones, but
you didn't see the gangster ones.
Yeah, for some reason, I guess I never really. My whole bag when I was growing up was I never really was that interested in the gangster movies because like you pretty much got what it was all about, and like I guess like I'd seen The Godfather, so I was like, well, that's pretty much all you need to know. And I'm glad that I got a chance to check this one out. It was it actually was it was actually a movie that I wasn't hating on being 2.5 hours long.
And that's something that we'll discuss when we discuss The Irishman compared to this. Also, now that you mentioned Godfather, we can discuss that as well as the end, because I think as great as Godfather was, this movie needed to be made, and this movie is different because Godfather, this Godfather is kind of this slow churn where it's like it's super slow, and it's, to me, Godfather's the intro to La Cosa Nostra. This is like we're in La Cosa. This is like someone that's on the outside of La Cosa Nostra looking in, being like an affiliate and seeing like how it looks from La Cosa Nostra being an outsider, but working with them. But we'll get to all of that at the end. The way I always start this pod off is doing background. So let me run some background off real quick. Goodfellas is a 1990 American crime film directed by Martin Scorsese, produced by Irwin Winker, and distributed by Warner Brothers. It's an adaptation of the 1985 book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, who co-wrote the screenplay with Scorsese. The film stars Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, Lorraine Bracco, Paul Savino, among many others. We'll get to their cast a little bit later, but this is one of the best casted gangster movies ever. A lot of people went on to do a lot of stuff. It narrates the rise and fall of mob associate Henry Hill and his friends and family from the 1955 to 1980. So Scorsese initially wanted to title the film Wise Guy, but postponed it, making it later. He and Pileggi decided to change the title to Goodfellas. To prepare for the role, De Niro, Pesci, and Liotta often spoke with Pileggi, who shared research material left over from writing the book. According to Pesci, improvisation and ad-libbing come out of rehearsals, wherein Scorsese gave the actors freedom to do whatever they wanted. Super improvised. The director made transcript of these sessions, took the lines he liked most, put them in a revised script, which the cast worked from during principal photography. Goodfellas premiered at the 47th annual Venice International Film Festival on September 9th, 1990, where Scorsese was awarded the Silver Lion for Best Director. It was released in the United States on September 19th, 1990. The film had a budget of $25 million and grossed $46.8 million. The critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes calls it arguably the high point of Martin Scorsese's career. The film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, which were Best Picture. For Martin Scorsese, he didn't win. He was nominated Best Director. He didn't win Best Film Editing, Best Adapt Screenplay. But the one that won was Best Supporting Actor as Joe Pesci. Best Supporting Actress Lorraine Bracco was nominated, but she did not win. Goodfellas was named the year's best film by the critics group. Goodfellas is also widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, particularly in the genre, particularly in the gangster genre. In 2000, it was deemed cultural, historically, and aesthetically significant and selected for the preservation in the National Film Registry by the United States Library of Congress. Its content and style has been emulated in other films and television series. Lots of extras were guys that were connected in some way or another to organized crimes. Many of them actually knew the real life characters, and one of the extras would be later convicted for carrying out hits for the mob. Goodfellas, okay, I already said what it grossed. This cast was Martin Scorsese's way of blurring real life with Hollywood. Scorsese would warn the cast about who these people were ahead of time to show that they would have respect for them so they wouldn't die. Some castings who could have been, Henry Hill was initially, the people who were up for him was Alec Baldwin, Sean Penn, Val Kilmer, but the one that was the lead until Martin Scorsese found Ray Liotta was Tom Cruise, which I'll stop right here. Oh, also Madonna was his main choice for Karen, but Madonna had a big tour at the time, so he ended up going with Lorraine Bracco. Also, his mother played Tommy's mother in the movie. There are 300 uses of the word fuck in Goodfellas, which at the time was the record holder. But that's all the background. How do y'all feel about Tom Cruise as Henry Hill? I think that's crazy.
No.
I think that's
absolutely nuts. Not. Never in a million years.
I think Alec Baldwin.
Now, young Alec Baldwin, maybe. But,
I don't see him.
You got to think this is 1990.
That's true.
But are we really sure Alec Baldwin can pull that off?
That's my thing.
I don't know.
That's my thing, Ian. As well as Val Kilmer, I'm like, what the fuck was he thinking? Like,
yeah, Val Kilmer looks the part. Have the acting chops.
We're probably going to get into this, but Ray Liotta wasn't necessarily the greatest choice. So
yeah, let's do it now. That's my biggest. Are we sure? Like, does Ray Liotta? Okay, so in the movie, they say that Ray Liotta's playing a 21-year-old when Ray Liotta.
Thank you. That was mine. It was written on here. Are we sure? Are we sure that this dude is not a 21-year-old? Like this old ass man. Like this was some Irishman stuff. Maybe if this was done today, they could have done some more of the CG de-aging stuff. But I'm like, when they said this dude was 21, I was like, wait, what?
Are we sure? That was
the same way Robert De Niro was in his 20s in The Irishman. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was my biggest. Are we sure? The only one. Just had to get that out of the way. But let's get into the best scenes. Starting off for me, the opening scene where the man is still alive and he's banging on the trunk, and then we see them pull over, and then we just see Joe Pesci take out the knife, start stabbing the guy, and then Robert De Niro's on top of it, like he's not already dead, starts shooting him. It just opens up the movie to show how visceral this movie is, how serious this movie is, and how, whereas Godfather showed killing, it wasn't really until the end, and it wasn't as violent. This was like, no, this is how violent these gangsters was. We're not going to stray away from it, and we're going to show it. So that was my one of the start of my best scenes. Ian, what you got?
Yeah, the opening scene really sets the tone. It kind of transitions really suddenly at the beginning to the point where the first time I watched it, I thought I had missed something and I had to go back and rewatch it. And I was like, oh, I guess this is just how this goes. But you're right. It really sets the tone really well for how this movie is going to go. I mean, it's not going to be the lovey-dovey, it's not going to be the happy-go-lucky story. If you were expecting that, you're going to, this is going to be real dark, and we're going there right from square one. We're going to get you into it.
No, 100%.
Yeah, I like a good, a cold open to something that we're going to get to.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. And then taking us immediately into his childhood stuff. That was probably one of the stuff that I really appreciated in the beginning was this young actor playing this guy. And I really kind of got a vibe for his story. That gave us some of the really great lines of, I've always wanted to be a gangster. When you hear stuff like that and that whole little opening that he gives out in the beginning, it kind of really sucked me, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to know what this guy's life was all about, and how he got to that point.
And the thing with me is, I didn't write down many of the childhood stuff because I thought it was okay. It wasn't the biggest having watched.
It was important.
It's important, yeah. And that's the thing with rewatching this. It's if you know his child, it's that's the stuff that didn't matter to me as much. But the scenes I wrote down from that was the intro to Jimmy Conway, De Niro, impeccable when he's just passing out the 20s in everybody's pocket, and you're like, okay, I see what's up with Jimmy Conway. And the courthouse scene where young Henry does not rat, and Jimmy tells him, three things you do. This is written down in my best lines. You never rat on your friends, and you keep your mouth shut. That's why I said the movie tells you what's going to happen already at the end. And they talk about rats multiple times throughout this movie. But those are two of mine from the childhood. Ian, give us one of your best scenes.
So I thought the childhood scene the first time through was actually really vital because it sets up his whole psyche for, why he ends up doing the things that he does.
Facts.
One of my best quotes actually was when he's doing that opening monologue and he's getting whipped. He says, "The way I saw it, everybody takes a beating sometimes."
I wrote that down as well.
That was a really great quote that stuck out of my mind. Actually, I just had to stop writing quotes down at a certain point because I was going on 2 pages and I was like, this is getting ridiculous. But that one stuck out in my mind, specifically from the childhood. And then if you hadn't said it, I would have said it as well. The never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut.
100%.
See, I actually was going into some quotes from that, and I felt like that part was one of the more quotable parts of learning who this is and some lessons that were being spit right off the script. And the one line that I really liked was when he said, "One day some kids carried my mother's groceries all the way home. You know why? Out of respect." And I was like, oh, this dude is trying to be the guy in his neighborhood. And the other one was, "You wasted 8 fucking aprons on this guy. I got to toughen this kid up." And that kind of gets him to a point where if you want to be in this gangster life, you got to be able to handle it, and you got to be able to be ruthless.
And that plays into my conspiracy theory. Both me and Shubert have a conspiracy theory that we'll get to at the end. Another scene that I have leading into after his childhood, we start off with the introduction of all the Italian members when they walk through. You see Frankie the Wop, aka he had a WAP. he had a WAP or a wet ass pussy. I was like, oh, Frankie, you got a WAP, brother. But they mention a guy by the name of Michael Francese, and you can go watch interviews of Michael Francese talk about the gangster life. He ratted as well. But I thought the scene where they introduced all the gangsters and
Tommy 2 Times.
Yeah, I thought that was a great intro scene. And then you get into the Joe Pesci scene where it's where do you think I'm funny? And you get the most famous meme of Henry Hill laughing. Am I funny? That's one of the scenes I have. Shubert, give us another scene that you got from best scenes.
Yeah, just kind of stick with that because it was kind of another pivotal scene. I finally understood where that that GIF comes from with Henry Hill laughing.
I was
so
hard.
Oh, that's where that comes from.
If I had a nitpick at that moment, the way he was laughing when they because you could tell that the audio for the laughing thing was a voiceover. He was laughing at points where his mouth was closing, like Ray Liotta was clowning.
That's what I was saying. This was when I first got in my head. I was like, Ray Liotta is just not the guy for this. I just cannot. This dude is just too much of a clown. But that's just a different thing. But yeah, I thought that scene was pretty pivotal to getting us to where we are now and introducing Pesci's character, especially.
Yep, Tommy. Ian, you give us another scene after that.
I agree. The scene in the restaurant kind of threw me for a loop because I couldn't take Ray Liotta seriously the whole time. Just thinking about them being in the room and trying to act that out and him making all these ridiculous faces, that must have been so hard for everybody else to keep going with it. But I guess you're laughing in that scene anyway, so it kind of works to your advantage if you're one of the other characters. Yeah, you don't even really need to think of any mental inspiration because you just got to look at Ray Liotta and what he's doing.
Yep.
And I thought it sets the tone for Tommy DeVito, Joe Pesci's character, because you see that, he loves Henry and, he's obviously very respectful of Henry, but also he wants to let Henry know that hey, man, I'm still above you. Don't mess with me, even in a joking fashion, because I'll put you in your place real quick. And I don't care who sees it.
And that's important because Tommy is the only full-blooded Italian. He's the only one that could be accepted as a made man, whereas Henry's part Irish, part Italian, and Jimmy is fully Irish. And that's something that you have to take in consideration. Also, during that scene of do you think this is funny? Whatchamacallit, Tommy says, damn, Henry, you were quaking in your boots so much. It's you should never get in an interrogation room because you seem like you would rat and cave under pressure. The second time they mentioned Henry ratting, just wanted to point that out because I wrote down every time they mentioned Henry's ratting because Henry does rat. The next,
here, if we want to move it along to another scene that is after this that I thought was pretty pivotal, you'll hear me talk a lot about Karen and a lot of the women in this movie because I thought that a lot of them are really, really badass and important. Having Karen take over as the narrator, and we're now getting her side of this whole first date with Henry, and how she was feeling about it, and like how she ended up like finding him and tracking him down, and that's where like he kind of felt kind of earned respect from Henry.
Yep.
But my scene that I thought was super cool and was just the most badass scene for Ray Liotta's character was when he takes her down through like the kitchen or whatever, and he's just like going around, he's just like giving people 20s, like, oh yeah, like I'm the shit, like, hey, what's up, man, what's up, and then they get a table like right at the front. I was like, oh, this dude is a badass.
Yeah, that was a great scene. Have that Martin down. A scene that I got is after that is Jimmy shaking down Maury for the first time. Like Maury just gets fucked in this whole movie. Jimmy starts shaking him down. It's just like it shows you, man, Jimmy's a fuck. just like Robert De Niro as Jimmy is a fuck. But to talk about your scene, yes, man, the introduction of Karen was so great because I think what sold Henry on Karen was when she walked down the street in front of everybody and was like, yo, bro, fuck you. You stood me up. And that was the reason why he brought it to the Copacabana. And she's like, okay, well, he's not Jewish. And he tells me he's a construction worker, but I don't know. But, and the thing that Karen always says is it turned her on. The power turned her on. And that was a motivation for why she stayed. After that, let's see. Okay, so I got the scene at the wedding where they're just dropping off money for their dowry, just like constantly just dropping off money. I thought it was interesting because Paulie and them weren't at the wedding; they were at the wedding reception, which Karen's parents weren't at. So it was like they had the play session and then they had the real family session. What'd y'all think about the wedding scene?
Well, I'd like to go back to the dating scene.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought that was very pivotal for Karen and Henry as a whole, as it moves farther down into the plot. Karen is the nice, naive, I guess is the best way to put it, girl at first who doesn't really realize what's going on at the beginning. Like she knows there's something going on with Henry, and she even asks him at one point, like, what do you do? And he says something like, oh, I'm in construction or something like that. And then the show starts, so he gets bailed out by the singer.
She's like, a construction worker doesn't make this much. He's like, oh, I work for the union.
Yeah, something like, yeah, he just, he brushes her off.
Like that's exactly what it was.
And they're walking through the restaurant, and he's saying hi to not only every head chef, but also every busboy and, janitor that works there. So she's like, all right, this is not just some normal Joe Schmo off the street.
And people buying bottles for them at different tables, and like the sign of respect to that. I was just like, dude, this guy has made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to spend a whole minute just walking around to the people around him and saying hello because he's that big. And, even the singer gives him a tip of the hat.
Yeah, he does.
So Karen realizes like, hey, there's a lot more going on here than I'm aware of. And then she eventually meets the other women from the group or from the family, I guess. And she's like, okay, I've kind of got an idea of what's going on. I'm not sure I can live like this. But then, like as Lyndon said, that she gets drawn in by the power and eventually just gets sucked in. And the fact that she is now cemented as part of Henry's life, I feel like plays a big role in his downfall later in the movie. Because maybe if he didn't have an outside influence, he wouldn't have made some of the same choices that he makes in the end of the movie.
That is very interesting.
Going to your wedding scene, Lyndon. I thought it was a really fun quote when she was like, "So like, why don't you have eyes on the money?" Or like, I was like, oh yeah, because like that money ain't all for you, sweetie.
But no, he was like, ain't nobody gonna steal that, not here, because they know Paulie would kill them. Like, and that's something we'll get to. Paulie's unconditional love for Henry. Paulie was not concerned about business, but that's something we'll get to when we talk about who lost the fucking movie. But the next scene I got is after that. So after the wedding, okay, so this is where shit gets serious. When Billy, I don't know Billy's last name, but Billy is the
Bats, right?
Billy Bats, yeah.
Billy Bats.
Billy Bats, the rival, I guess, made man, because none of them are made. Billy starts breaking
almost Shazam.
when Billy starts breaking Tommy's balls, and De Niro, one of the quotes I got, he's like, Billy's like, yo, he's talking to Jimmy. He's like, come on, man, I'm just busting his balls. And De Niro's like, okay, you're a little disrespectful, but okay, do you, Billy Bats? And then Tommy comes back, and then boom, he kills Billy. And then
who's a made man.
I consider this all one scene. Yes, that's very important. He's a made man. And then them going to Tommy's mother's house with blood on it. And like Tommy's mother's just like, whatever. I'm just happy to see my son. Why do you need this knife? I'll buy this deer story, whatever you tell me. But I think that whole just big montage from meeting Billy Bats for the first time, who's a made man who just got out of prison, starting to bust Tommy's balls, saying you were the shoe shine kid. Tommy comes back, kills his ass, and then them going to Tommy's mother's house to see the painting, where the painting looks just like Billy Bats.
You got one going east and one going west.
Yeah, the two fucking dogs. But would you, Shubert, give us your thoughts on those, and if you got a scene next, go ahead.
Oh man, I thought the Billy Bats stuff was one of my favorite. It really kind of brought about the start of Tommy, and really kind of opened your eyes to like who this character really is. Because but like
Tommy's
you knew the guy had it coming. Dude,
Billy was disrespectful.
He was being disrespectful. Like this was obviously he had been in town for a while, and then still saw Tommy as like
this kid.
Someone who was this kid, which he probably was a kid at the time, but we couldn't tell because Joe Pesci was the actor.
Dude, well, and 40. They were in Jimmy's place, right? They were in Jimmy's bar, if I'm not mistaken.
They were in Jimmy's bar. That's why Jimmy was like, okay, whatever, take your drink when he comes back.
That's why he was like, I don't want to mess up your floor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no. That's later. That's where they kill him.
No.
That was in this one?
Mm-hmm. He got the tablecloth and was like, I don't want to mess up your floor.
Oh, yeah, true.
But then that also brings us back to the main beginning.
Yeah, the beginning.
Yeah, we come full circle.
100%. And that's where to me, this is now when the movie really gets going. Because then we get, after that, the next scene I wrote down is when they go to the Copacabana. And then this is one of my quotes where it's like, Saturday night was for the wives, but you see Friday nights for the girlfriends. And that's where we meet Janice for the first time. And that's where it begins I love this movie. Don't get it twisted. I love this movie. But this movie has a lot of uncomfortable domestic violence and racism scenes. It's like, oof. And that goes into the scene in the Copacabana.
Was it 3 N-words?
Bro, Tommy, and look, I'm going to say this because I'm an African-American. I'm going to say the line, but it's this visceral where Tommy's date's like, Sammy Davis Jr., he's amazing. I could see why women love him. I would like to sleep with him. And Tommy goes, wait, so you're telling me I'm kissing a nigger? And she was like, no, I'm not saying I bang him. She's like, look, you got to watch what you say. You got to say he's talented. You can say he's talented, but don't say you want to sleep with him. And Henry's like, yeah, you can't really say you want to sleep with him. And she's like, I never said that. She's like, that's why words are important. I was like, whoa. Jeez, the racism. But after that, I got when Karen goes to meet Janice, and then a line that I have is she goes, answer me, Janice Rossi. And she's like, you're nothing but a whore. You're nothing but a whore, Janice Rossi. And she starts calling up everybody, and she's like, you're leaving next to a fucking whore. I thought that just showing how crazy how crazy and a loose cannon Karen is. But
the scene where she's like standing outside Karen's building, just buzzing over and over again and hitting every buzzer. She was not afraid to just come mess up this girl's life.
Because at all.
Her own life was in shambles at that point. And she had her kids with her. Oh my God, man.
Bro.
Like it's one thing if you're going to go cause a scene, but you can't do that in front of like 5 and 7-year-olds.
Henry's oldest daughter saw so much. The youngest one escaped it, but the oldest one saw so much. And I know she has trauma from that shit. But
this dude bought her an apartment. Like, she was like going around like parading it around too. And I'm like, dang, Janice. And like,
that's where you see one of the secret actresses, one of the potential like Sandy for the first time. The lady, who's from
Sandy gets. We're gonna talk about Sandy more.
We'll talk about Sandy a little later.
I mean, I thought Janice, and I'm gonna talk about Janice later on too, because Janice didn't have too many negative moments in this entire movie. Like Janice had it going for her, where like Karen had to deal with not only Henry's children but his life.
Yeah, Janice had it easy.
She had to be a part of the life.
Janice just had to bang
got the free
and get
apartment
money
and bang him.
Yeah, that's all. So, Janice gave sex for Henry was a sugar daddy. Like Henry just paid everything in Janice's life, and as long as she put out, Janice got, and she had to deal with not knowing about anything about the mob. She didn't have to deal with none of the problems. Janice did pretty well for herself. Hey, that's what I'm saying. Janice
had it going on, but the other part of that it kind of leads into is where she holds the gun to Henry, and I thought that was a really great pivotal scene.
That's an important scene, and it's just like you see the relationship is just crumbling, and it's like she points the gun at him, and then this is where it gets to the uncomfortable domestic violence, and where she's like, I can't kill you. And this is a line I wrote down. She's like, I can't kill you because I just am in love with you. And Henry doesn't realize that Karen truly loves him. Henry does not give a fuck about Karen, at least not at this point. 21-year-old Henry might have loved her. But at this point, Henry just cares about his bros, making money, and just getting laid by whoever. And Henry says whatever he can to get her off of him. And then when she lowers the gun, he punches her, puts the gun to her face, and she's like, how do you like this, Karen? How do you fucking like it? And I'm just like, oh God, this is a lot.
It was a lot. It was intense.
And at one point, Henry's even ready to leave. I don't even remember if this is before that scene or after that scene. So
it's like right after with the conversation with Paulie. Yeah, it's right after.
Henry doesn't care at all about Karen. If he doesn't care about Karen, then by default he doesn't seem to care about the kids. You know, obviously he still probably loves them as a father, but the end result of him getting out of that marriage at that point in his life seems like it would outweigh his love for his kids. Yep. So, and then the only thing that stops him is Paulie coming back and saying, nah, man, we're not doing all that, because of the ripple effect that would create both within our community and outside.
Yep, and we just don't do this. We're not animale, and that's something I wrote down. That Jimmy and Paulie talk to Henry about going back home. That is definitely what I write is the next scene on the thing. And then right after that, Jimmy and Henry get arrested for the first time, and it's just like y'all went down to Tampa and got all that fuck shit, and that dude ended up snitching on y'all. His sister worked for the FBI. Like, what bad luck? And it's just like, oh shit. That's a crazy scene. Shubert, if you got anything after, because I'm sure you've written down what's next for me, because I already know it's the next scene that's the best scene. And I guarantee you wrote it down.
I mean, I just thought that the whole prison deal was crazy. Yeah. I'm like, what prison is this? Like, at first I thought they were in their own space. That wasn't even like a prison building.
They were.
I was like, where is this?
They were. And then when Paulie but see, Henry benefited because Henry's an associate of Paulie. But then when Paulie left prison, Henry had to go back to Gen Pop. And that's where he started selling fucking drugs and getting hooked to cocaine. And that was another part of Henry's downfall. So, and that's what I wrote down. The dinner with Henry, with Paulie, Vinny, and all them. They're cooking steaks. They're doing like, it's just like, yo, what the hell is all this?
I got red wine, white wine,
scotch, prosciutto, bread, salt. Like they're just eating all this good shit in jail, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Ian, if you got anything on that, go ahead.
Well, the prison scene is actually super important because that's where he gets the connection from Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And it also further, serves to deteriorate the marriage because they have that whole scene where Karen is just super pissed about having to be the drug mule, basically.
But what sets her off is she sees Janice's name on the book, and that's what I wrote down. Where Henry has to talk Karen off of the ledge, and he's like, "They're not going to help you."
Janice wasn't expected to be the pack mule either. Janice wins.
Janice just went there. Janice was a conjugal visit. Henry's talking off the ledge. I wrote this down. He's like, I can't control who sees me or not. Karen, she just came to come see me. I'm in jail.
Yeah. I'm the one stuck behind bars. I'm not making plans.
Exactly. And then the whole conversation where he's talking to Karen, he's like, you can't expect anything from Paulie. We're on our own. You got to bring me this. I'll sell these drugs, and that's how we're going to make this money. And then right after that is when Henry gets out of jail, when Paulie tells Henry, do not sell any more drugs. And to me, at that point, I think there's 2 points where Paulie fucked up. I'm going to mention this is one. When you see Henry's on those drugs, you back the fuck off of him and kill him if you have to, because it's about business at the end of the day. But that goes back to Paulie's downfall of loving Henry unconditionally, because you see he's on these drugs, but you think he can get off. This is the first time where you should have been like, okay, Henry's fucking up. I'm gonna stop loving him as I gotta treat him like business. But if it's not this scene, it's the next one. But what y'all think of when Henry goes to Paulie and Paulie's like, don't sell any drugs. You can't do that right now. The heat is on us.
I knew he was gonna come back to bite him.
Yeah.
I knew that's it. I just knew he was gonna come back. It was gonna come back to bite him. I was like, oh. Paulie was that was the whole thing. Like Paulie was the level-headed one, and then you had Jimmy who was just like a little bit of a loose cannon, and then Tommy who was the ultimate loose cannon.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, he kind of made his bed with what kind of gangster he wanted to be at that moment.
Yep.
This was very reminiscent of Scarface to me, when he's having that meeting and the guy says, "Don't you ever try and fuck me," and then at the end he fucks them. This is obviously that classic moment where he says, you know, "Don't fuck me," and then he ends up getting fucked in the end.
Yeah, so this kind of the point of no return.
Yeah, as soon as they had that scene, I was like, all right, this is about to go downhill in a hurry.
Yeah,
this is going to be bad for everybody.
And that's where we get to the Lufthansa heist. And then to me is when Jimmy goes and tells everybody, don't spend money after the Lufthansa heist. And what does Henry fucking do? And everybody do? We see the pink Cadillac. We see the mink. And then Jimmy tells Henry specifically, you're a good guy. Don't spend money. Henry says, I went on and bought the most expensive fucking Christmas tree. Like, bro, just carrying all these diamonds and shit. I'm like, bro, Henry, you don't fucking listen. Like, they need to kill you. Like, I multiple times throughout this movie, I thought Henry needed to die. Like, the unconditional love for Henry fucked Jimmy and Paulie so hard. It did. Like, gosh, they fucked up.
Element? Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, go ahead, Ian.
I was just going to say it's that element of them having known him since he was a young kid, and them probably feeling closer to him than they do their own kids because he's directly involved in the business.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, he wasn't going back to his own family at a certain point, so he was just living with them. So it's that father-son connection that most likely sealed their fate, in my opinion.
No, you're 1,000% right.
Shubert, no, what I was gonna say is like this is, you know, the start of Maury pestering his way to the grave, and you know his ass needed to keep his hairpiece on, like his commercial said, because you know he was out there wilding trying to get his money, and like homie, you know you got to know who you're dealing with, because like these dudes don't mess around, and as we saw, De Niro does not mess around with his money.
Maury was fucking stupid, bro. Like, Maury just kept speaking, and then it leads to his death. But to me, a scene that I have before that, Samuel, they killed Stax. Tommy killed Stax.
Wasn't before that.
Yeah, that was before the Maury scene, because Tommy kills Stax because Stax got stoned and didn't destroy the car from the Lufthansa heist. And then once that happened, the heat came on, and then Jimmy was like, I got to take care of all debts. And then he kills Maury. And then when the Afro dude who was with him, Carbanza or whatever his name was, I was like, damn, y'all even killed him? That was y'all's homie. Like, he was with y'all from the jump. I was like, Jimmy, you heartless, bro.
You know, I think one scene that we probably missed before all this was Spider.
Yo, you are absolutely right. I wrote this down. Spider.
Because that was one I have written down for sure. Like, why don't you go fuck yourself, Tommy? That was one of my favorite lines in the whole damn thing. Like Spider, and you know that actor too. Chris, as we see through you know Michael Imperioli. You know, we see him in all sorts of stuff down the line. The Sopranos.
Chris Moltisanti, man. That's something that we definitely didn't mention. The death of Spider. First, Spider gets shot in the foot. He comes back the next day and he's in fucking Tommy's like, oh, you're just shitting around. You're just bullshitting. You're not real. He's like, don't fuck with me, Tommy. And then Jimmy's like, oh shit, the kid's got balls. Oh hell yeah. And he instigates it. And then Tommy shoots him. And he's like, bro, why'd you shoot him? Because you fucking instigated it, Jimmy. These dudes have high school rules about their lives, like instigating and breaking. Like they live like high school adults. It's like, bro, y'all are just doing the dumbest shit right now.
Well, it's like he had no remorse. He did not care. He was just like, oh, let's get back to the cards. Like,
and that's the same thing that ends up to being Tommy's downfall. He never cared about who he killed, and that's what led to his demise as well. But we will get to that. But yeah, I think that was a good point. Ian, if you have anything on the death of Spider, because I know you know Chris Moltisanti.
That was a great scene. It was very cool the first time watching it through, because I didn't know that Michael Imperioli was in that movie. And so seeing him, I was just like, oh, that's the guy. But I feel like there's another very important scene that we glossed over, which is, I believe it's after they whack Billy Bats. They go back to Tommy's house, and Catherine Scorsese, Scorsese's mother, plays his mother.
Yep.
I thought that was very cool, like behind the scenes thing to hear about afterwards from one of my buddies.
Facts.
But I just wanted to shout out Big Kath because she killed it in her role.
Yeah, she killed it 1,000%. So then we got
and the one other thing before you go that I think we did not touch on as well is circling back to Sandy. This is where we get the introduction of what Sandy's new role is as his new side piece / business partner, helping
AKA his crack whore, the one who weighs out his drugs. Like, I can speak like this because this is how they speak in this damn movie. She just weighs out his coke. That's all she does. He doesn't even want to bang Sandy. It's the coke doing it.
The Sandy in Janice's apartment was pretty hot. The Sandy by the end of the movie looked like she had gone through it.
Bro, she's a coke fiend.
Yeah, one too many snooters there, bud.
Bro, her and Henry just went downhill. Like Janice got out at the right time. Like, Janice is not a part of any of this, probably living her life, living her best life. So then after that, after Jimmy telling everybody not to spend money, Henry spends fucking money. Tommy kills Stacks. Jimmy and Tommy whack Maury. And then the big scene is when Tommy's supposed to get made. Jimmy's like, yeah, Tommy's going to get made. We're making it. Tommy gets dressed up in his suit, talks to his mom like, we're made, mama, we about to do it. And then all of a sudden he goes, Tommy gets fucking whacked for killing Billy Bats. And that's where we see the first time. He knew it too. That's where we see real emotion from Robert De Niro, real emotion from Tommy, because Henry doesn't cry. Tommy cries. I mean, Jimmy cries.
Or Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy cries at Tommy's death because that meant a lot to him. Henry kind of felt like Tommy had it coming to him. Jimmy was like, yo, my best friend just died. And am I next? I was a part of this. Like, what's going to happen to us now? We were about to be made. Life was supposed to be good. Now we're still in the shitter.
It's true. Like, I think that for Jimmy, Tommy being made, like it's they even said in the movie, like Tommy being made meant that Jimmy's made. So yep. That's where I'm kind of like in disagreement, where I don't know if it was so much frustration for losing Tommy as much as it was for like, oh shit, like now I've gone from the highest point to the lowest point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough for that. But I thought Joe Pesci, when he walks in and he doesn't see anyone there, he's like, oh shit. And then he gets shot. I was like, oh, you had it coming, boy.
And they even say they shot it because he killed a made man. They shot him in his face, so his mom had to do a closed casket funeral. Fucked up. Like, you shouldn't have killed Billy Bats, brother. Ian, what do you think about the death of Tommy?
Scene, because like Jimmy, I believed that life was about to get better for all of them. I mean, that's one of those scenes where you just see your happiness or your destiny, and it's almost there in the palm of your hand, and then all of a sudden it's just gone like that. And I can relate to that with some job offers that I had, or some opportunities for me that just didn't work out in life. And the emotion that takes over Jimmy there, I'm sure we've all felt something like that at some point in our life. So that to me was one of the most relatable scenes for Jimmy's character.
Yep.
And it does show that he does have some kind of a human element, because for the most part in this movie he's just kind of the hard ass keeping everybody in line. But he really shows his softer side. So that was a great scene, in my opinion, one of the best in the movie.
It definitely humanizes him. The next thing I have is the helicopter day scene, where the whole helicopter day leading up from when he wakes up and he goes outside and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do these guns. And he's like, wait, what's that helicopter? To when he comes home, he's going to bring that girl to get her hat, and then the cops are there. Like, everything from going to the doctor to pick up his brother, to him and Karen going and drop the guns at his mom's house, to then the girl being a dumbass, like, oh, I can't fly without my hat. I can't fly without my hat. And thus,
I thought she was in on it.
And then she makes the call on the phone, which gives them the tap, and thus gives them the drop to say, okay, we're stopping this now. Even though they've been listening to him for a month, this was concrete evidence. They had drugs, they had guns, and they had the flying routes and everything. And that's what was the nail in the coffin of Henry. Even Sandy gets picked. They go to the police station. We see the Pittsburgh Connect walk in. He's like, fuck. He sees the girl walk in with the hat. He's like, super fuck. And then when Sandy walks in with all her unclean dishes, which he told her about 30 minutes ago, he was like, oh, this dumb bitch. Now I'm super fucked. What do you all think about the helicopter day just montage?
Tense. I'm so tense. I'm like, at first I'm thinking, well, how stupid are these police officers just like flying this helicopter around? Like, of course this dude's gonna see something coming.
How stupid is Henry to continue on his day when he sees helicopters flying?
Exactly.
Yeah, at that point the day's over. You just go back to bed.
Or you pick up your family and leave out of the state. Because the helicopter stopped following him for multiple times. So if that's the case, leave. Like if I know that if I know I'm a criminal in a criminal organization and I'm selling drugs, I've already been arrested. They're looking for me. What the fuck what do you think you're gonna do if you see helicopters all day? Like, I'm dipping. Like, Henry was fucking stupid.
Yeah, at that point, just smell you later, man.
Yeah. Jesus.
I'll call Paulie when I get to a rest stop somewhere with a phone booth that maybe they haven't tapped into yet. But for me, this whole scene just reminded me of the episode of It's Always Sunny, where Charlie's got the inspector coming to the bar, and they do that whole scene as just one continuous take of him trying to get the bar ready. That's what this reminded me of. Obviously not as comedic of a feel, but it did have that continuous element to it, which was very cool to see in this movie.
Where it's like he kind of like, he was like, oh, there's this, and everyone's just like, oh, la-di-da-di-da.
Yeah, and he's just having,
like, especially Sandy,
trying to get through it.
Yeah, Sandy did not care.
And this hat chick,
the hat chick
apparently is in on it. I thought she was in on it.
She was not in on it, but I love that conspiracy theory. I'm gonna give mine at the end of the movie because I can explain this. But the next thing is the next scene, and this is crucial. Paulie breaks it off with Henry. He's like, he gives him $3,200, and he's like, don't talk to anymore. I thought at that moment, Paulie should have killed Henry. That's what a real life mafia would have done. They would have killed Henry because they know Henry's gonna fucking rat. Like 1,000%. He's not in jail. He got out on bail. Why is he out? He's coming to me asking me for a job. Oh, I'm gonna give him this money because I love him. But after that, it's over for us. No, Paulie. After that, kill his ass. Am I crazy? Like, Paulie should have definitely killed him.
If it was anyone else but Paulie, it would have been dead.
Yeah, if it was the other guy, the one who ended up killing Tommy, he'd have killed his ass. Vinny would have smoked Henry.
Well, and again, I think this is where you see that father-son element come back. And I don't know if it's right before this or right after this. I think it's right before this, but Karen says she flushes like $60,000 worth of cocaine down the toilet.
Which I thought was a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely the right thing to do.
Bro, Henry was fucked up on drugs and was stupid. They would have been even more shit if the coke would have been found. It would have been because the thing is,
and they would have found it.
The coke that they found was just residue, so it was like it's not a lot of coke. That's why Henry was able to bond out. But the fact is, if they would have found that real coke, it was like Karen was a ride or die. Henry was fucking stupid, and yes, they would have definitely found it.
Well, and they both would have gone to jail, which just leaves their kids SOL,
in government care, in foster homes. Because
they don't let them go stay with grandma and grandpa at that point because it's like heavy narcotics trafficking. Like, your kids just really get the short end of that stick, and then you go to jail for the rest of your life. So obviously, Karen made the right decision.
Yeah, Karen definitely saved the day on that one. Like 1,000.
That was another Ray Liotta scene where I was like, this dude's just so annoying. Karen, that was all of our money, Karen. Why, Karen? I'm just like, oh, dude, get over yourself. Like, she did the right thing.
Yeah, she definitely did. Another why we dislike Ray Liotta but love this fucking movie. So, yeah, Paulie breaks it off with Jimmy. The next thing, Jimmy tries to whack Karen. Jimmy's like, oh, yeah, the code's right in there. And then those dumb schmucks are just like, oh, we're waiting for where she at. Karen's like, huh? Wait, what? And then just gets in her car. Jimmy's like, fuck. Because Jimmy's not messing with Henry right now because Jimmy knows he's fucked.
Karen ain't stupid.
Good on Karen. Karen had to be smart with that one. The next one is Henry starts to rat, thus going into the courthouse scene and rats on him. But I got the scene where he's talking to the person, and Karen's like, "What do I have to do with it? I didn't say anything." And the police like, "Bro, Karen, you're gonna die if you don't be a part of this too." It was just like,
yeah,
damn.
It's like, Karen, like, what do you think? Like, you can stay here with your parents and like have him go away, and just like they're not gonna kill you.
You, your parents, and your children, they're all dead. Y'all are all dead. But when he's in the courthouse and he points Jimmy and he points out Paulie, more so than Jimmy, when you see Paulie's reaction of just like, damn, fam, damn, you really just couldn't take your hit like a man. Fuck you.
Well, so this is so calling on another piece of media that this reminded me of again. The whole reason that Henry ends up ratting is because Jimmy basically insinuates that he's going to have him whacked if he goes on this job. You know, he's sending him off to Florida to do this deal, right? And he's like,
yep.
"Oh, we don't do shit in Florida. I've never been to Florida, and I've never even been on a run for you. So why are you asking me to do this, like, you know, kind of peasant shit now?" And I think that is very reminiscent of the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, because Henry is put in a position where, you know, he doesn't want to go against Jimmy and what he's asking him to do, but he also knows it's not the right thing for him to do in that situation. You know, the reason that Anakin ends up, in my opinion, turning to the dark side is because all of his mentors are basically telling him, like, you know, you're not ready. We don't trust you yet. You know, we just want you to play your role, basically. And so he ends up succumbing to the Emperor's will. And, you know, there's the Padme element of it too. But basically he feels like, you know, this is the best option for me because the people that I love and the people that I trust in my life are no longer on my side. So
that's very accurate.
Had Jimmy not, you know, put Henry in that unfortunate position
and try to whack his wife.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, bringing me into it is one thing, but telling me and my wife to go down on this drug deal, like, I know what's going on here. You're trying to get rid of us, man.
Yeah.
So if Jimmy hadn't done that, he might have saved himself and Henry in the end.
That's true. That is very, very true. Shubert, how do you feel about that?
No, it makes sense. You know, that was the big downfall for Henry. I mean, Henry just could not. You know, they were asking him to do things that just weren't him, and that's when he knew that the writing was on the wall. I mean, that's what it all came down to. I mean, he knew that he was going to have to die, and
it's either die or save my own ass.
Which was what I was the most confused about with this. Is I was like, you guys are giving this guy every notion to know that he's getting whacked. That's the whole thing about whacking someone, is that they don't expect it, or like they don't see it coming.
Tommy didn't see it coming until he got there. Like, what are y'all doing? But see,
exactly.
but that goes back to my point of Paulie did not treat Henry the same way he treated Tommy. The heat came down from the made men for Tommy, and they were like, "Paulie, you have to do this," and they did it. Henry, I'm sure they didn't have heat come down, but I'm sure other people were like, "Yo, your dude's in this situation," and Paulie's like, "Nah, I know Henry. He's not gonna do this," but he did do it, and that goes back to Paulie not handling his business and not treating it like a business and letting his love for Henry cloud his vision. But that was the final best scene I had. So let's get into best lines. Ian, just run through some of your favorite lines of the movie.
So like I say, I stopped writing them down at a certain point. Some ones that we haven't said yet was, I believe it was Jimmy when they were entering into the partnership for the restaurant. One of his lines was "Fuck you, pay me," and I can't tell you how many rap songs I've heard that in. Well, for me, all the best lines really come during the monologues. I thought that was, you know, a theme that I noticed was they saved the best lines for those cutscenes. We were Goodfellas, wise guys.
Yep.
Which makes reference to the original book. If you're part of a crew, nobody ever tells you that they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
That was a line that, Henry said, you know, before they attempt to whack him. And that was where I stopped writing things down. But that was towards the end of the movie anyway.
Yeah. Shubert, you got any lines?
I want you to know about the whore living in your apartment.
Yeah. Who is that, Karen? Every time Karen talks about Janice, bro, you fucking whore. Gosh. Janice Rossi's a whore.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. And like Ian said, I stopped writing quotes down in the middle of it because it's just so hard to catch. But a lot of the monologue stuff are pretty essential. Like with the beginning, and then with the end, with talking about the Goodfellas and the wise guys. So
when it's over, it's over.
When it's over, it's over.
Yeah, I wrote that one down as well. We did our Are We Sure Ray Liotta looks 21. So let's jump into who. Well, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say about that is that, that was kind of, or do you want to talk about The Irishman after all this?
Yeah, after all that. All right, so let's get into who won the movie. We'll just go with I'll say my 3 nominations, then we'll just go around and then we'll choose, each of us will choose one. Or if you only have one, you can say the one and then we'll just discuss. But I have 3, and I need y'all to, if y'all only have one, I want to hear y'all's reasons before I choose mine. So, number 1, De Niro as Jimmy. He just killed it acting-wise, and to me, he was probably the best actor in it, even though I have Joe Pesci as well. Joe Pesci's visceralness and violent, he just really sold Tommy as a person. But really, the person who won this to me is Martin Scorsese. Like, Martin Scorsese, this is the movie that put him on the map. This is the one that was like, okay, this guy's a great director. Yeah, he had Mean Streets and I believe Taxi Driver before this, but this was the one that was like his magnum opus. This is the one that was like, okay, he is Martin fucking Scorsese. So those are the 3 people I nominated to win the movie. Shubert, who you got?
I guess from like a real world perspective, I'd probably say Joe Pesci is the winner because he not only put up a really great acting performance, but it kind of got the ball rolling for what his career ended up becoming. True. He does My Cousin Vinny 2 years after this. He starts really hitting a stride in acting in the early 90s. So he wins that. But my winner as a character is Janice. Janice wins. She's the one person out of all this that didn't have any shit go down.
Janice did win.
all she got called was a whore.
Yeah, she got some good dick. She got a nice apartment. She got a lot of money.
And a lot of
good experiences, good stories. I mean, she's gonna be telling that story to everyone her whole life. Like this lady came and called me a whore.
I hope Janice saved all that jewelry and pawned it and used that money to better herself because she got a lot of free shit. Okay, I like your choice of Janet. That's a very good choice. Ian, who do you think won the movie?
So as far as actual characters in the movie goes, Janice seems like the only real winner because, like Shubert said, she just doesn't have anything bad happen to her at the end.
That's why I went real world with it.
For real world, I think Lorraine Bracco, a.k.a. Karen Hill, is the winner because that launches her career. If I'm not mistaken, that launches her career, and she gets the part as Dr. Melfi on The Sopranos based on this role.
True.
So as far as like real world, consequences of this movie, I think her life was most affected positively by being a part of this movie.
Damn, both of y'all said better answers than me. Okay. This is Scorsese's magnum opus, but I like Ian's. Damn. I'm going with Janice. And yeah, I'm going to go with Lorraine Bracco. Y'all, you sold me, Ian. Like, she definitely won because of this. Like, that is a fact. And, like, and some could say Samuel L. Jackson had a big part in this. This was, like, his big step.
I could barely even tell that was him.
But this was his step into white acting. Like, he did Spike Lee movies, but this was, like, him in a big white actor movie. And thus, Quentin Tarantino sees this. And, like, Pulp Fiction happens 2 years after this in 1992. So,
am I mistaken in thinking that Samuel L. Jackson was doing whiteface in this movie?
No, he was
Stax, bro.
Yeah, he was Stax.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you could barely tell.
Yeah, no, he was in there for like a tiny portion. Like, watch, let me tell you. Oh no, see, okay, Pulp Fiction came out in 94. Let me see when this came out because I think
90. This came out in 90.
No, this came. I'm trying to see if he had something before this because I feel like he had some Spike Lee movies earlier than this, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull this up real quick because I that's why I just feel like this is crucial. Let's see.
All right. Pre-1990, the only movies that I see that are worth anything are nothing.
Okay, yeah, he had School Days in 1998, Coming to America in 1998, Do the Right Thing in 1989, and then he had like some small TV shit. Mo Better Blues in 19, and that's what I'm saying. Goodfellas was his first step into like a big time white director's movie. Thus, after that, he gets Jungle
Patriot
Fever,
Games,
Patriot Games, and then he goes to Menace to Society, True Romance, and
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park's before Pulp Fiction?
Mm-hmm. 93.
Oh, real. Well, then never mind. Yeah, Jurassic Park's what did it. All right. That's done with. This cast, but Martin Scorsese also wins, in my opinion, because this cast was incredible. He put together a great cast of people. Samuel L., Sandy, whatever her name is, the lady from the Food Network, she kills it.
Debbie Mazar?
Yeah, mm-hmm. Debbie Mazar. I love Debbie Mazar. She's fucking amazing. Michael Imperioli, Lorraine Bracco, even Ray Liotta, whatever. Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Paul Savino, Frank Vincent. There's so many in this fucking movie.
It's funny how you say the Food Network. For me, it was Entourage. I was like, that's just Entourage.
Yeah, true. She is an Entourage. Also, Isaiah Whitlock Jr. You may know him as what's his name in The Wire? He's the congressman from The Wire who's like, shit, Negro. He's also in The Five Bloods, but he was the doctor who took care of took care of Henry's brother. So he's in there. But,
yeah.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. This was a star-studded cast. Big Pussy, Vincent Pastore was in this as well. Like, so many just crazy actors in such a good cast. Tony Cicero as well. So shout out to Martin Scorsese. But I like both of y'all's answers with Lorraine Bracco and what's her name? Janice Rossi. All right, let's get into who lost the movie. Paulie. I got three. I got Paulie, I got Karen, and I got Stacks. Paulie, you should have killed Henry, bro. You fucked up. Karen, what did you get out of that marriage? What did you get out but heartbreak and pain? Like, what did you fucking get? Your mom told you not to fuck with this guy because he wasn't coming home at night. And then when you walked outside and you were like, come in, and he goes back with Tommy and leaves, maybe that was a signature. Hey, maybe this guy's a fuck. Maybe I need to leave before I know anything. And then Samuel,
loyal, man.
And then Samuel, bro, you shouldn't have got stoned on the job. Like, that's literally, you was just smoking too much weed, got stoned, didn't burn the truck, and then died. But to me, the big loser.
What was sad about that is they precursored that to a black stereotype, and I was like, oh, that's wrong, man. And then it ended up happening with Stacks. I was like, shit.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese did not shy away from hopefully personal opinions on race, but they went there with the race elements of this movie.
But you see, I'm not mad at him because that's how that's how the mafia people acted. So it's like, you know,
if you're gonna tell the story, you may as well tell the whole story.
Tell it the right way. At least he didn't shy from it and glorify it. Like they did. Like that's how they were, and that's just legit. But that's the three I got. I think Paulie is the big loser. But I could, if y'all convince me, Karen, I'm down to say Karen lost because what did she gain from any of this but heartbreak? Like she should have left. I'm torn between Karen and Paulie. Shubert, who you got?
I'm with you on Paulie, but I thought the biggest losing moment for any of the characters was when Tommy got whacked. So I would say that Tommy lost. He had it made. He was about to be a made man, and then he got shot in the head.
He never was going to be a made man. That's the thing. They lied to him because he killed Billy Bats.
Well, he could have been.
Yeah, if
he was eligible.
If he didn't kill Billy Bats. Ian, who you got losing?
So I'm going to go with Karen, and I'm going to tell you why. Paulie and Tommy both could have, made different decisions in their own lives that would have affected their outcome. But Karen, the one wrong choice that she made was getting involved with Henry Hill in the first place, and that was because she was young and naive. Paulie, the decisions that he makes that bring him down, he's an old man at that point. Not old, but he's, well into his 50s. He's got to, he knows
he's probably in his 60s.
He doesn't whack Henry. He knows the consequences that could come back to him. And that's even why he tries to have that conversation and get out in front of it with Henry and, say, this is going to happen to me. I've seen it happen to other people. I don't want to die in jail. But then he ends up dying in jail. And for Tommy, all of his negative impacts that, come throughout the movie, all the things could have been prevented by him not being a hothead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A loose cannon.
Calm down every once in a while, and maybe so many bad things won't happen to you. Maybe you will actually get made at the end of the movie. Like,
and that's the thing. They didn't want to make him because he was a loose cannon. It was like, bro, you do too much wild shit. You bring a bad name to this. Yeah, I'm not mad at Karen. Karen lost this movie. Like
Karen just gets the short end of the stick in every situation. She's got to be a drug mule while her husband's in jail. She's got to raise her kids on her own for basically the entire movie because Henry was a deadbeat dad. Other than giving them money,
she gotta lose her parents.
She loses her,
because she has to go into witness protection. Life. But also, they probably died because the mafia probably killed them. Like, let's be real.
Probably so. I mean, as soon as she divorces Henry, then that detaches her from any, familial element that they may feel towards Henry still at that point, they being the mob and who's left.
Yeah.
So at that point, she's free game. Maybe they would spare her because of the fact that they have kids and someone's got to raise those kids. And it's obviously not going to be Henry, who's in witness protection program. They can't find him. So, Karen just at every possible turn, she doesn't help herself by staying, but at a certain point she's in too deep. She can't get out. The same thing that they threatened Henry with by him wanting to divorce Karen, they would have threatened her with had she said, I want to leave Henry. So she's kind of stuck, and then she just has to deal with the consequences of her husband and his associates' actions.
I'm with you. Ian. You convinced me. Karen lost this fucking movie.
She got the shortest of ends of that stick.
Shubert, are you changing your answer to Karen, or are you sticking with Tommy?
No, man. I'm staying because I got more to say about Karen.
Okay, well, I have Paulie in second place of losing this movie, but when it comes to six man of the movie, I got Paulie. And let me tell you why it's not Karen, because Karen to me is a lead player. I think the big three of this movie, or technically is a big four. It's like the Celtics. It's Karen's Rondo, Robert De Niro is KG, Tommy is Paul Pierce, and Ray Liotta's hitting threes every once in a while is Ray Allen. Paulie comes in off the bench as a solid six man. Every scene that Paulie is great. Paulie convinces you when he's cutting the garlic. He gives good words of information. And in the scene that did it for me was when Paulie talks to him at the end with the $3,200. When Paulie's not gonna cry, but you see the sadness and despair on his face because he knows he lost his son. Great acting for me. Paulie's my six man. I'm gonna go with Ian this time. Ian, who you got as your six man?
All right, so I want to give a quick shout out. He's obviously not a sixth man because he doesn't come up but once in the movie, I think. But Tony Two Times, just because that's a hilarious character. But my sixth
I was hoping for more of him.
Oh, me too. I thought as soon as they introduced him, I was like, man, with a name like Tony Two Times, this guy's got to be a mainstay. But
that was the Pittsburgh Connect, huh?
No, he's the guy at the beginning, like one of the beginning scenes where they're kind of doing the monologue where they're like, oh, they even had Tony Two Times who says everything twice, and he gets up and he says, I'm gonna go check the car,
yeah,
something like that.
In the opening introduction to all the mobsters.
Yeah, in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was hoping for more of that guy, but he's really more like a 12th man, I guess. But my sixth man would have to be Frank Severo, who is in The Godfather, plays Frankie Carbone. I think Linda mentioned the guy with the afro.
Yep, I like Frankie Carbone.
He's always palling around with Joe Pesci. He's basically like Joe Pesci's right-hand man. They have that scene where he's wondering what he should do with the coffee, and he's like, oh, we'll take it to go. And he's like, oh, really? No, put that shit down. Then they got the scene where they're in the car, and they kill the one guy, and Frank Carbone, I think he's like, should we drive away? Or should we,
he's
like, the car needs to heat up. And he's like, start driving.
He always brings the comedic aspect. No, I like that choice. That's a solid six man. All right, Shubert, who you got?
Yeah, well, I had Karen as a six man.
Karen's not a six man.
Well, I mean, you kind of convinced that now, but I mean, it's thinking in basketball terms for a movie is just very difficult for me to think of like a six man. But like, I was thinking of someone who wasn't like the big three, who like had a strong contribution, and were the same things of what we were talking about with Janice, and Janice got everything handed to her. Karen had to work and do all the shit. So she was the one that was carrying the load.
But that's why I think Karen's a starter, because Karen had her own monologues. Like, that's like, to me, a six man is someone who comes in every so often and just dominates and does a good job on the screen. That's why
Jamal Crawford.
Yeah, that's why I went with Paulie, man. Paulie's not in the movie a lot, but like when he is, he always drops a solid 15 points and then goes his ass home and then eats his dinner, eats his gabagool. So, all right. All right, let's get into this. Shubert, what do you think? Which is a better movie, Irishman or this?
Oh, did you want to do like the recasting?
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Okay,
the only thing I really had on that was, I thought that if you were going to put someone in Ray Liotta's spot, and if this movie wasn't in 1990, I think that Leo would have killed this role if he would have been able to get with Scorsese for like a movie like this. Like I thought that role was like meant for Leo.
True. I got someone who was gonna be casted but had a scheduling conflict, and that's the only person who I didn't mention earlier and say anything bad about. I think Sean Penn as Henry Hill would have been great. This is Sean Penn pre-Mystic River. This is Sean Penn before he goes crazy. Sean Penn would have been able to pull it off. The visceral violence, he'd have pulled off. He's a great actor. So, like, I think all the scenes where Henry was supposed to show emotion and everything, Sean Penn would have pulled that off, and that's who I would have casted as Henry Hill. Ian, do you have anybody that you would have casted as – it could be anybody that you would replace?
Well, so I would change Ray Liotta as Henry Hill. And I don't have someone to replace him as, so I will ask you this instead, Lyndon. Do you think Sean Penn has the same career, or is it better, or is it worse if he's cast as Henry Hill in this movie? How do you think that affects Sean Penn?
I think it might be. I think he might be better. Although I think his career was kind of tanked by his own like dumb comments. You know what I mean? Like I think he was just a dumbass. But I think in terms of if we're just looking at his art. Yeah, I think it's better because like I think he still does Mystic River, but I think he gets more big roles like that. I also, another person I thought could have did it, Henry, but I thought he was too old. Harvey Keitel. But Harvey Keitel, yeah. But Harvey Keitel's way too old at this point. Like,
that didn't seem to matter for them for
Ray Liotta. So. Yeah, true. True. But that's why I went with Sean Penn, man. I think Sean Penn would have killed it. But let's get into our discussions. Shubert, do you think this is better than The Irishman? And then, Ian, for you, I'm going to ask you, do you think this is better than The Godfather? Like, where do you go, Godfather or Goodfellas? Shubert, you can also answer that. But let's start with The Irishman.
With The Godfather, I think that The Godfather is just like a saga, so it's just in a different category with the whole thing. With Goodfellas, straight up with Irishman, it pretty much almost is the beat for beat same kind of movie, like just same kind of movie, different group of people, mainly a lot of the same group of people, as actors. So like, I think it's better than Irishman just because like this is probably a better fleshed out story, and like you're not dealing with like 50-year-old men trying to be 21-year-olds.
Yep.
So like. I think that's where Goodfellas is better than The Irishman. But I just was so intrigued that Martin Scorsese pretty much did the same movie just on Netflix with older actors, and they just redid Goodfellas almost. And that's what like it felt like watching this. I was like, this is just The Irishman. Like,
yep, no, 1,000%. It is, and like I said, I like Goodfellas more than The Irishman. I think Goodfellas is, I don't want to say the best gangster film because I think The Godfather 2 is up for that. But if we're talking Godfather 1, I might go Goodfellas over it. Ian, am I crazy? Because, like, I love Godfather 1. I really do. Like, honestly, I might like – I was – before I watched Godfather 2, I liked Godfather 1 more than Godfather 2. But then I actually watched Godfather 2 and got into it. And I was like, oh, Robert De Niro kills this. Al Pacino kills this. The story with his brother, great. But Godfather 1's so good. But, man, Goodfellas – I don't know.
It's neck and neck, man. It's neck and neck in my mind. I think if somehow they had wrapped up the Godfather story in one movie, there might be a case for Goodfellas over the Godfather. But the fact that the Godfather went 3 movies, we don't count the last one.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Fuck the last one.
But the fact that it's an expanded multiple part story, it just automatically in my mind makes it better because They have more room to do character development individually, and they have more room to introduce new elements. It's just the whole thing that goes along with having a sequel.
True.
I will say, though, that I do think just going off general feel for me, having seen both of them only twice, because that's as many times as I could stomach watching a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, I can't watch The Irishman more than that's not going to be a run it back movie.
Definitely not. No, we can go ahead and scratch that one off the poll list right now. But I will say I actually kind of enjoyed The Irishman a little bit more than Goodfellas. Purely because, it is almost the same movie, but De Niro and Pesci's acting chops are more refined in The Irishman, and I appreciated that a little bit more. Also, it doesn't end as poorly for the main characters as Goodfellas does. A few of them get off okay in the end.
Yeah, Robert De Niro survives.
Yeah, exactly. So just based off my own personal preference, I would have to go The Irishman.
That's interesting. All right, I'm not mad at that. I dig
which
that.
Which I guess in turn puts The Irishman up there in the Godfather conversation as well for me.
Real? Okay. Well,
it's you can almost consider it as like Scorsese did this, and then he did The Irishman as like okay, well, I saw what happened in Goodfellas, and now I'm going to make a more refined
version
gangster movie of it. Yeah.
Just the runtime of Irishman should have been like that's the thing with this one. I think this one was a tighter movie. I just think that the acting was more refined in the Irishman. So it's just a little bit give and take for which one. But that's interesting. I'm not mad at that take. All right, at the end of every run it back, we rate the movie, and whatever movie we do that's the highest rated is the run it back king. So obviously for live action, because this is the first one, it will be the run it back king. But Shubert, I'll start with you. What are you rating this 1 through 10? We do this one on a 10 scale. And you got to be critical on your rating for this show.
Give it like an 8.4.
All right. I'm not mad at that rating at all. That's a very good rating. Ian, what do you give it?
There were no real major plot holes in the movie. And also, for it being such a long movie, I didn't find myself like just wanting it to be over until it was literally the last scene anyway. And I paused it and I was like, when is this going to be over? And I was like, oh, it's literally
over now.
Yeah, it's done. So that won a lot of points for me because, like Shubert, I'm not a fan of just sitting through most of my day watching one thing. So I'll give it an 8.7. It would have been higher for me had they not cast Ray Liotta as Henry Hill. I'd have given it maybe like a 9.2.
Yeah,
but just Ray Liotta takes me out of it in a couple of scenes, and I can't get over that. Especially the second watch, I was like, oh, this is even more painful at times.
No, I'm with you, Ian. So you said 8.7?
8.7. That's my final
answer. That's the IMDb rating, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so I went with an 8.6 because I'm with Ian. I think it's over 8.5, but like Ray Liotta just drops it down. I think it's a solid B plus. It's up there. It's over 85. It's in the B plus category. So the way that I figured out to do running back from now on to get an average rating so we don't mess it up, which I'm gonna bring to the anime one, is I'll take all of our scores, add them up, and get the mean, get the average. So the running back score for Goodfellas is 8.56. We will round that up because we believe in rounding to a solid 8.6. So Goodfellas right now is the running back king at 8.6, but I do believe it will be dethroned next one. But the question that we asked at the end of this movie, Shubert, is this movie run it back? Is it a run it back movie? Can you run it back?
It's hard for me because I just hate trying to, like, the whole thing with the movie that exceeds 2 hours is that I feel like I have to frame it in a schedule. So like that's where it's hard to run it back for me. But I think it's a movie that if someone was like, hey, tonight we're gonna watch Goodfellas, I'd be like, oh cool, yeah, I'm down to like get chill and watch Goodfellas. Like I think it's a movie that
you would recommend.
That I would recommend, or like I would sit and watch with like a group. I feel like it's something that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, well then it's run it backable for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay, I'm saying cool, like it's just long.
All right, Ian, would you run this back? Would you recommend this to people? Is it run it backable?
I agree. And if you haven't seen the movie, you definitely should run it back, because I found myself noticing things the second time through that I didn't pick up on the first time. For example, and I can't believe I waited this long to bring it up, but there are long scenes where like one of the two main people talking aren't on camera. And I thought that was a really interesting stylistic choice, to kind of almost have it like it would be framed as like a documentary interview, was almost how it came across. So I thought that there were little things within the movie that I didn't pick up on the first time, but both stylistically and acting wise and plot elements, there were just things that I tied it all together better for me the second time through. So yes, definitely run it backable despite the length.
I'm right there with you. This movie is definitely run it backable. I love Goodfellas. Goodfellas, the run it back king, with a score of 8.6. With the next episode, we are going to Quentin Tarantino land, and we're gonna pick. But we're gonna probably put it in a poll. If not, it'll be chosen between the three of us. We're gonna pick between Django and Pulp Fiction, so you can be on the lookout for that coming soon. But Ian, tell the people they can find you at on social media.
You can find me on Twitter at IanBWT, and you can find me on Instagram at IanHawley12. That's IANHAWLEY 12. Oh, it's in the corner right there. So there you go. Yeah, come check me out.
Facts. Shubert, tell the people they can find you at on social media.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ashubert14. You can listen to the Bros Who Binge podcast. All three of us are on the most recent episode where Lyndon goes up against Schmidt.
Oh, that's next week. That's next week, because this drops tomorrow.
Oh, well, yeah.
That'll be out on Monday.
All right, I was just making sure. It's around the area, but yeah, we're all on it, and it's a good time. So make sure you check that out this upcoming weekend. We're on Monday, and we're about to get to book 3 in Avatar, which will be fun. If you check back on our last few episodes, we reviewed The Tax Collector and we reviewed Project Power.
Yeah.
This week, I'm not quite sure what we're reviewing.
Yeah, I don't know. Ted Lasso, maybe?
I watched all 4 episodes today, so we could definitely talk about Ted Lasso. I would definitely be down to talk about it if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I got the Apple TV app on my computer, and I'm going to be in Mobile for a couple days with nothing to do, so...
Yeah, it's one of those, not talking too much into it, but it's one of those TV series that you watch the first couple episodes being like, what is this shit? And then you're like, oh, well, I want to watch the next episode.
Real. So, all right, word. Well, we'll figure something out, but we'll talk about that off air.
And also check out Ian's project on YouTube, Old Daddy.
Yeah, y'all go stream Ian's music. It is lit. Ian, tell me where they can find it.
So the project is called Rough. My stage name is Old Daddy. It's OLE, and you can find me on YouTube that way. You can find me on SoundCloud. The name of me and my buddy's group is called Chop Shop, so that's what it's under. All lowercase, all one word. But yeah, go check it out. I'd love to hear what you guys think. You can tweet at me at it. The link is in my Instagram bio at IanHawley12. Again, my Twitter is IanBWT. So love to hear any reviews that you guys have, genres that you'd like me to try in the future, ways I can improve, things like that.
Hell yeah, man. Y'all go check out Ian's project. I got to check that shit out my damn self. Fuck yeah. You guys can find me at LynBWT. Follow Bros Who Think at Bros Who Think. Be sure if you enjoyed this video or you enjoy any of our YouTube content, please subscribe and join the family, join the community. Like we said, we found a system to get to what you guys want us to do. We're doing a lot of polls. We're going to do a poll for which Quentin Tarantino movie y'all want us to review next between Pulp Fiction and Django. But then after that, we're going to do a poll for what's the first comic book movie you want us to do, because that's going to be the third live action run it back. It's probably going to be between Dark Knight, Iron Man 1, Logan, and Spider-Man 2. Those are like the 4 big studios' probably best movies, unless Shubert can convince me that Into the Spider-Verse is a better choice than Spider-Man 2. But Spider-Man
it's a good point. Because I've been trying to convince you that we should put in Ant-Man, best MCU movie there is.
We're not putting in fucking Ant-Man into the first poll. It's either Avengers the first movie or Iron Man, and I don't like Avengers the first movie, so I don't want to do that for a while. So. But you guys will get to all that. But like Shubert said, be sure to check out Bros Who Binge. Be sure to check out the most recent episode of the Bros Who Think podcast. That's out now on YouTube, as well as the most recent episode of Anime Talk. But if you follow us on Twitter, you'll know everything that's going on. You'll see all the polls. But until next time, for Ian, for Shubert, my name is Lyndon. We will talk to you soon. But until then, peace.